Look at your neighbor and tell them, this is not my ending. Now look at the other neighbor and say, I survived too much to stay stuck because I didn't come to announce another calendar year. I came to declare a turning point. I didn't come to whisper hope. I came to prophecy momentum. I didn't come to remind you of what you lost. I came to awaken what's still alive inside you. Some of you walked into this room tired of praying and waiting, tired of sowing and not seeing, tired of starting and stopping. But hear me clearly, what tried to break you in 2025 did not bury you, it built you. You are not late, you are not forgotten, you are not disqualified. God has been training you in the shadows for a season that is about to demand your full voice, your full faith, and your full obedience. Tell yourself out loud, 2026 is my year. Not because it will be easy, but because I'm ready. Some people are waiting on 2026 to change them, but God is waiting on you to manage what He's already placed in your hands. Because years don't shift lives, decisions do. Seasons don't transform futures, discipline does. If a calendar could fix what chaos created, then everyone who turned the page would be free by now. But you know better. You've stepped into new years carrying old habits, new opportunities carrying old fears, fresh beginnings weighed down by unmanaged thinking. And that is why I came to tell you 2026 is not magic, it's managed. Management is the difference between potential and progress. You can be gifted and still be groundless. You can be anointed and still be undisciplined. You can be called and still be chaotic. God will give you vision, but He will not override your responsibility. Heaven releases purpose, but you must steward it. If you don't manage your time, it will manage you. If you don't manage your emotions, they will sabotage you. If you don't manage your focus, distractions will drain the very strength you prayed for. Some of you are asking God to bless what you refuse to organize. You want overflow with no order. You want increase with no structure. But God is not careless with greatness. Before He enlarges territory, He strengthens capacity. Before He releases favor, He requires faithfulness. And faithfulness is not loud. It is consistent. It shows up when nobody is clapping. It keeps working when motivation runs dry. It obeys even when feelings resist. Management is waking up and choosing discipline over drama. It is deciding that your mornings will no longer be rushed, your priorities will no longer be negotiable, and your purpose will no longer be postponed. It is understanding that every yes costs you a no, and every distraction steals from your destiny. You don't need more hours in the day. You need more intention in the hours you already have. God has already given you enough to win this year. The problem was never lack. It was leakage, leaking energy, leaking focus, leaking faith. You kept pouring into things that never poured back into you. But 2026 demands stewardship. It demands boundaries. It demands maturity. This is the year you stop blaming the devil for what poor management created. This is the year you stop calling procrastination waiting on God. God has been waiting on you. When you manage what's small, God entrusts what's significant. When you honor the process, He accelerates the promise. When you align your actions with your prayers, heaven responds with momentum. 2026 will not be different because the numbers changed. It will be different because you did. You didn't just hope better. You planned better. You didn't just pray harder. You lived wiser. And when you manage this year with discipline, clarity, and obedience, you will look back and realize something powerful. 2026 didn't just happen to you. You commanded it. You cannot step into a new season wearing an old mindset and expect it to fit. What carried you through survival will suffocate you in expansion. There are ways of thinking that once protected you, but now they are restraining you. God is not trying to take anything from you. He is trying to prepare you for what's next. And preparation often begins with subtraction. You've been praying for elevation while clinging to familiar patterns, familiar fears, and familiar excuses. But the truth is, you cannot receive a new mantle with an old mentality. Some of you learned how to think small because thinking big once hurt too much. You learned how to stay quiet because speaking up once cost you something. You learned how to lower expectations because disappointment wore you down. But hear me clearly, those coping mechanisms kept you alive, not anointed. They helped you endure the storm, but they cannot govern the season of increase that is standing at your door. What once kept you safe will now keep you stuck. God never promotes a mindset that contradicts the assignment. When he calls you higher, he stretches your thinking wider. When he enlarges your territory, he challenges your comfort. That is why new levels feel uncomfortable, because your thinking has not caught up with your calling yet. You keep saying you're not ready, but readiness is not a feeling. It's a decision to grow. And growth always requires letting go of what no longer fits who you are becoming. You can't think like a victim and walk like a victor at the same time. You can't speak defeat and expect dominion. You can't rehearse yesterday's failures and lead tomorrow's victories. The mind is a gatekeeper. Whatever controls, it controls the direction of your life. And this is the year you stop letting old wounds write new scripts. Just because it happened before does not mean it will happen again. Just because you failed then does not mean you are finished now. God is calling you to renew your mind because your mind determines your movement. If you keep thinking like you're still in the wilderness, you'll miss the milk and honey standing right in front of you. If you keep thinking like you're still broken, you'll reject the responsibility that comes with healing. New mantles require new mindsets, ones that can handle responsibility without resentment, visibility without insecurity, and blessing without guilt. This is the season where you stop introducing yourself by your trauma and start identifying with your purpose. You are not who you were. You are who God is forming, and formation is uncomfortable because it demands honesty. It demands that you confront limiting beliefs, self-sabotaging habits, and inner conversations that contradict your destiny. But once your thinking shifts, your life will follow. When you release old mindsets, you don't lose yourself. You discover your future. And when your mind aligns with your calling, you won't have to chase doors anymore. Doors will recognize you. Some of you have been interpreting silence as rejection, delay as denial, and waiting as failure. But what if the pause wasn't punishment? What if the delay wasn't a dead end, but a development zone? We live in a world that rushes results and measures worth by speed. But God has never been impressed by how fast you arrive. He's concerned with how prepared you are when you get there. Delayed does not mean denied. It means God is working on something you cannot yet see. You prayed and nothing seemed to move. You sowed and nothing seemed to grow. You knocked and the door didn't open when you expected it to. But just because heaven is quiet doesn't mean heaven is inactive. Roots grow in silence. Foundations are laid underground, and the deeper the calling, the longer the construction. God often hides the work because if you saw everything he was doing, you'd try to rush the process and sabotage the outcome. Delay has a way of revealing what you truly trust. When the timeline stretches, impatience speaks. When the promise lingers, doubt tries to creep in. But faith is not proven when prayers are answered quickly. It is revealed when you keep believing even when the clock keeps ticking. Some of you didn't miss your moment. You survived your immaturity. If God had released what you asked for when you first asked, it would have crushed you instead of crowned you. God delays to develop character that can handle consistency. He delays to deepen discernment so you don't confuse opportunity with assignment. He delays to detox pride so that when favor comes, you won't self-destruct. You thought God was withholding, but he was actually protecting you from relationships you weren't ready to manage, protecting you from platforms your identity couldn't yet survive, protecting you from success that would have exposed wounds you refused to heal. Delay also teaches obedience without applause. It teaches you to serve without spotlight. It teaches you to keep showing up when no one is watching, and that kind of faith builds endurance, not entitlement. You stop demanding timelines and start trusting timing. You stop asking when and start asking, who do I need to become? Some of you are closer than you think. The reason the pressure increased is because the promise is near. The reason the stretching hurts is because expansion is happening. God never wastes a waiting season. Every tear watered your growth. Every closed door redirected your steps. Every not yet refined your focus. What felt like delay was actually alignment. And when the moment finally comes, and it will come, you'll realize something powerful. You weren't being postponed. You were being positioned. The delay didn't disqualify you. It distinguished you. You won't just step into the promise. You'll be able to sustain it. Because what God gives suddenly, He prepares patiently. You didn't go through what you went through just to survive it. You went through it so it could shape you. Every tear you cried, every night you questioned yourself, every moment you thought you wouldn't make it was not wasted. Pain is a brutal teacher, but it is an honest one. It strips away illusions, exposes weaknesses, and forces growth that comfort never could. You may have asked God why it had to hurt that way, but the truth is some lessons can only be learned in the fire. Pain has a way of revealing what's really inside you. When everything is smooth, character can hide. But when pressure comes, what's in you comes out. And even when you stumbled, even when you doubted, you kept moving. That's not weakness. That's endurance. You didn't break, you bent, and bending kept you alive long enough to grow stronger. What tried to crush you actually introduced you to a depth of strength you didn't know you had. You thought the setback was a sentence, but it was a syllabus. You thought the loss was the end, but it was instruction. Pain taught you boundaries. It taught you discernment. It taught you the cost of ignoring red flags and the danger of trusting without wisdom. It taught you that not everyone who claps for you is assigned to walk with you. Those lessons didn't come from books or sermons. They came from experience. And experience is education you never forget. God uses pain to train your sensitivity. You notice things now that you once ignored. You listen differently. You pray differently. You move with intention because you know what recklessness costs. Pain matured you. It slowed you down long enough to examine your motives and realign your heart. You lost some things, but you gained clarity. And clarity is priceless. The enemy thought pain would make you bitter, but God used it to make you better. You could have become angry, closed, and cold. Instead, you became aware, compassionate, and resilient. You learned how to forgive without reconnecting, how to love without losing yourself, how to stand alone without falling apart. That's preparation. That's growth. That's strength forged, not borrowed. What you endured equipped you for assignment. You can speak to people now because you've stood where they stand. You can lead with empathy because you've felt the weight of failure and disappointment. Your testimony carries authority because it was tested in real life, not theory. People will trust your voice because your scars prove you paid the price to understand. Don't rush to forget the pain. Redeem it. Use it. Let it remind you of how far you've come and how strong you've become. The same pain that once made you cry will soon make sense because when God finishes preparing you, you'll see it clearly. The pain didn't weaken you. It qualified you. Motivation is loud, emotional, and temporary. It shows up when the music is playing, when the crowd is cheering, when the moment feels right. But consistency is quiet. It doesn't need applause. It doesn't wait for feelings. It shows up when it's boring, when it's hard, and when no one is watching. And that is why consistency will do what motivation never can. It will change your life. You've been motivated before. You felt the surge, made the promise, started strong. But somewhere between excitement and execution, motivation ran out. That's not because you're weak. It's because motivation was never designed to carry you long term. Feelings shift. Energy fluctuates. Life interrupts. If your progress depends on how you feel, you'll keep restarting instead of finishing. Consistency doesn't ask how you feel. It asks who you've decided to become. Consistency is choosing discipline when emotions negotiate. It is doing the work when results are invisible. It is praying even when heaven feels silent, showing up even when effort feels unrecognized. Every time you stay consistent, you are casting a vote for your future self. Small actions, repeated daily, shape character more powerfully than occasional bursts of passion ever could. God responds to faithfulness more than frenzy. He's not impressed by how high you jump one day if you won't walk steady the next. He honors the person who keeps sowing when the harvest is delayed. Consistency builds trust with God, with people, and with yourself. When you keep your word to yourself, confidence grows. When you follow through, momentum develops, and momentum opens doors motivation only talks about. The enemy doesn't need to stop you if he can just exhaust you emotionally. That's why he attacks consistency. He wants you distracted, discouraged, and divided in focus. But when you keep doing the right thing long enough, resistance loses its power. Consistency wears down obstacles. It outlasts doubt. It turns discipline into habit and habit into identity. You don't see the results immediately because consistency works underground, like roots spreading beneath the soil. Strength is forming where no one can applaud it. Then one day, growth breaks the surface, and it looks sudden to everyone else. They call it favor, luck, or timing, but you'll know the truth. It was consistency doing its quiet work all along. This is the year you stop waiting to feel ready. Ready comes after repetition. Confidence follows commitment. Mastery is born from showing up again and again. You don't need to do everything. You need to do something faithfully. Consistency doesn't require perfection. It requires persistence. And when motivation fades, as it always will, consistency will still be standing. It will carry you through days you want to quit and seasons you want to skip. And when you finally reach the place you prayed for, you'll realize it wasn't one big moment that got you there. It was 1,000 faithful steps no one saw. This is the year you stop showing up halfway to a full calling. No more shrinking your voice to make others comfortable. No more dimming your light to avoid attention. No more apologizing for the weight of what God placed inside you. You have spent enough time preparing in private. Now it's time to present in public. This is the season that demands your full presence, your full faith, and your full obedience. For too long, fear has negotiated your participation. You entered rooms quietly, hoping not to be noticed. You downplayed your gifts, waited to be invited, and questioned whether you belonged at the table. But authority does not come from permission. It comes from alignment. When God assigns you, he also authorizes you. And when you finally understand that, you stop asking if you're enough and start acting like you were sent. Showing up fully means embracing responsibility, not running from it. Blessing always comes with weight. Influence comes with accountability. Visibility comes with scrutiny. But hiding will not protect you. It will only delay you. You cannot lead from the shadows and expect impact in the light. God didn't develop you through all that pressure just to keep you silent now. Some of you have been waiting for confidence to arrive before you act, but confidence is built in motion. Courage doesn't come first, obedience does. When you take the step, strength meets you there. When you open your mouth, clarity follows. When you move forward, provision aligns. God doesn't reveal the entire path. He reveals the next step. And the next step requires you to show up fully, not cautiously. Showing up fully also means letting go of the need to be liked. Purpose and popularity rarely walk together. When you walk in authority, not everyone will applaud. Some will misunderstand you. Some will resist you. But you cannot lead while craving approval. You cannot speak truth while fearing rejection. This is the year you choose assignment over acceptance. You are not here by accident. Your experiences have shaped your discernment. Your battles have sharpened your voice. Your survival has given you credibility. There is a room waiting on your courage, a conversation waiting on your clarity, and a generation waiting on your obedience. But they won't benefit from what you refuse to release. Showing up fully means owning your space without arrogance and carrying your authority without apology. It means being present mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. No more divided attention, no more half commitments, no more delayed obedience. This is the year you stop circling the door and walk through it. When you finally show up fully, you won't just feel different, you'll function differently. Doors will open because you arrived ready. Opportunities will recognize you because you're aligned. And you'll realize the truth. God didn't bring you this far to watch from the sidelines. He brought you here to stand, speak, and lead. Hear me as I close. This is not your rehearsal. This is your release. You didn't survive the storm to stand in the rain again. You didn't endure the pressure to live beneath your purpose. Shake off the weight of yesterday, straighten your back, and lift your head. Because when heaven finished shaping you, it called you ready. Walk into 2026 with authority in your steps, clarity in your mind, and fire in your spirit. This is your moment. This is your move. This is your year. Say it until you believe it. 2026 is my year.